Alex, manifestation is bullshit. So why is there $1 billion industry built on top of it?
So we are starting strong right off of the gate, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
for me, I think, first of all, we have to define a little bit the terms because, in today's world, people understand words through their own filter. So I would like to first describe how I understand it, and maybe there is a mistake in my understanding of the term, while somebody else has a different take on it. For me, manifestation, as it is popularly sold and expressed, is fundamentally the belief that by thinking strongly or visualizing strongly or feeling strongly enough in a particular direction, the universe will bend its laws and hand you the results. But I fundamentally don't think that the universe works like that. I call actually manifestation a pixelated model of reality. And I can get into that a little bit. So to your question, like why the billion-dollar industry survives is because it monetizes hope. So the hope for a quick fix out of a current struggle. And also it tends to reduce the complexities of building the things that you need in order to achieve the things that you want to achieve. It reduces these complexities to a simplistic one-size-fits-all solution. So it's why I call it like a pixelated model of reality is that I believe that there are elements of it from it that actually there is some form of merit to them. So for example, I believe that emotionally charged goals will increase the odds of you getting them. So if the goal that you are trying to achieve is something truly meaningful to you, it excites you, it moves you, then most likely it also increases the chances of you moving towards it, right? So there are elements of manifestation or how manifestation is expressed that I can say that, okay, there is some sort of merit.
Intrinsically motivating goals are more likely to be achieved because they're intrinsically motivating, right? That makes sense to me.
Well, is it meaningful to you? Basically, that's another way of asking the question. If it is, then most likely you're going to get it. If it's something that you picked up from the culture or from, let's say, different environments because they just sound good, which they might be good and they sound good, but if there is no internal drive that you are and by internal drive, I mean simply you find yourself eager to take some form of action towards the accomplishment of that goal.
Okay, I gotcha. If you are driven to create a meaningful impact or achieve a meaningful goal, it's more likely to become achieved because you're obviously motivated and it means something to you. That's a pretty, I feel like that should be common sense, but I don't think it is for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, for me, one of the models that I use is the behavioral model. So fundamentally, somebody tells me their goals, let's say. And by the way, I apply the same thing to myself. So if somebody tells me their goals, I'm not actually very interested per se in the goal. I am going to be more interested in something like, okay, great, fantastic goal. Show me your calendar. Or walk me through a day in your life. Walk me through a week in your life. And for example, if I do not see any type of action and or behavior that is linked to what you just told me, most likely what you have is a dream, not necessarily something that you are actually working towards. So when I apply it to myself, I do the same thing because sometimes it's very hard to judge, for example, if a goal is something that you are fundamentally intrinsically motivated towards achieving, or it's something you just picked up because it sounds fancy. So I apply this heuristic to myself. Do I actually see myself taking the actions? If I look at my calendar, did I do any type of action in the direction of that goal? If I did, then that is let's say a point in the idea that this is something that I am truly interested in and I want to pursue.
I think that the piece that manifestation gets right is defining your vision. Obviously, we're super into this sort of a function, but the thing that it mitigates and almost says is not even necessary is defining a plan and taking action. And that's probably the allure of the, get rich quick, miracle pill, quick fix thing like you were talking about. Is that the reason why so many people fall into this sort of trap, because they don't actually have to do the hard work? All you have to do is just visualize and believe hard enough, and then the universe will bend to your will.
Yes. So let's again, we'll define both terms of how I see them. Manifestation, I already said, it's believing that if you think, visualize, or feel strongly, then the universe bends to your will. Vision for me is more of having a clear picture of the future you want and the person you want to become, and using that as a guide to your decision. So you use your vision as a filter to align your daily choices and habits. So because vision can have the same drawbacks or the same downsides as the manifestation, as in vision without the action plan is, like I said, it's just a dream. So the difference for me is that manifestation fundamentally is more tilted towards waiting for something magic to happen, versus vision that focuses on an alignment between your choices and your actions and the desired outcome. So what manifestation offers, let's say, or what people find enticing, is the illusion of a certain outcome without the responsibility of the action, the knowledge, or the skills needed in order to build it. It promises, let's say, it promises certainty without the struggle of trial and error. It promises certainty without any form of emotional discomfort. And it gives people the illusion of a control, or the illusion of control in a chaotic world. And I think most people would choose a comforting lie over the responsibility of shaping the reality through action. So it feels to me like it sells a faulty system, and often it also puts the blame on the person. If the faulty system doesn't work, it puts the blame on the person because the person didn't feel strong enough. They didn't visualize the goal powerfully enough.
So you just didn't believe hard enough, man.
Yeah. So it's one of these blaming the victim kind of thing. So that's what. But like I said, I think by working in the personal development world for a decade, I fundamentally have a more nuanced view on the subject. So again, like I was mentioning earlier, because I'm one of the models that I apply in my life is this behavioral model. Another model linked to this is the pragmatic model. I think that, action is the thing. Fundamentally, I believe the action is the thing that's going to get you the result. But how you take action, for example, I can explain to a person, hey, you devise an action plan and you create some foundational goals, and then you break them down even further. And I give you a roadmap, let's say. But maybe it seems too convoluted, too complicated, too hard, too masculine for somebody. While, for example, the manifestation is you align your inner feeling with the desired outcome. Now, if that alignment leads to action, which I know is the thing that gets you the result, then I can also say that manifestation is, while being empirically wrong, is pragmatically correct. So it's a faulty system, but if the system leads to some form of action, then it's pragmatically correct because the action is still the thing that's going to get the person the result.
I like what you said about how manifestation has a passive quality to it, where the universe will bring you the thing, as opposed to what you just said. I've defined my vision. I'm going to break it down into an action plan and then take action on it deliberately every single day. That has a active quality to it. You're the person that's going to make this happen. You're going to bring it to the universe. What is the sort of process by which somebody can use their vision as a decision-making framework or a decision-making guide, like you said?
So for me, fundamentally, vision is a decision-making framework, or let's call it for easier. It's a filter. Your vision is a filter that turns choices into progress. So what this filter operates by a simple yes or no rule. So how does it play out? It's like I have a vision of the life I want to live and the person I want to become, and then I put all of the choices and actions through that filter. So fundamentally it will be like, does this choice move me closer to the future that I've defined? If yes, I do it. If no, I don't. The clearer that vision becomes, the easier, I believe, decisions in life become. For example, you'll be like, you decided to increase your level of energy and you have a fit body and you put a strong purpose behind it, is because this is the way I'm going to live a better, more fulfilled life, and I'm going to be a sexy partner for my wife or my significant other. So this is very clear for you as a vision, right? And then I'm like, hey, Justin, do you want to participate in a hot dog eating contest? If you have no filter, no decision making, then your only framework of operating is pain or pleasure in the moment. Or it sounds like fun, let's do it. You have no concept of the consequence of what that type of stuffing your face silly exercise will do to your body. But if you have the vision where I'm like, I'm lean, I'm strong, I'm sexy for my partner, then you immediately can say no to a demand, like let's call it a reversed opportunity, an inversed opportunity like this. And what I've also found is that you also are most likely not to experience any form of fear of missing out. There's no fear of missing out because it's not aligned to anything that you have defined that it's important for you. So, for example, I have this visual image of myself from the movie Matrix, or Neo, when he's ducking the bullets and... So for example, this is, I, like everybody else, I also get bombarded with 10,000 advertisements for 10,000 products and experiences every day, but they don't reach. And the more clear you are on your vision, the more at one point you will be able to do exactly like how Neo does it, where he just stops. He doesn't duck the bullets anymore, right? He just stops all the bullets. They don't even appear. Because I was like, hey, these are not intrinsically valuable to me in the accomplishment of the vision that I said it's important.
So if most people have well, maybe not clear, but if most people have a vision of what their life can or will be like in the future, they want to drive a better car, have a better relationship with their spouse, better health and fitness, all of these things. Why do they get tripped up on the actual decision-making framework part of this sort of equation? They go, oh, well, my buddy invited me to a hot dog eating contest. I do want to be in shape, but it actually does sound pretty fun, so I'm going to go do it.
So this for me is a clear indication that the vision is either not clear enough, your purpose behind what you just said is not strong enough, or just to simplify things, that's not what you want. That is simply not what you want. You think you want that because it sounds cool. Look at, if you ask most people, there is no version of a person that will say like, you know what my vision is? I want to be broke, divorced, and fat. I have never heard anybody ever saying something like this, right? Everybody wants, I want to have a beautiful, loving wife. So fundamentally, like a lot of the big goals, like the big umbrella goals, are kind of similar. So people want some version of the same thing. But what I would say is like, hey, maybe your goal, for example, is not to be ripped. Let's say because you saw it on catalogs and it looks great, and you also think like, oh, my wife will like me if I'm ripped. But again, that's not your goal. again, I would define a goal, something that you are actively pursuing, or are you seeing yourself actively take action towards. So, to go back to your question, the vision is not yours. The goal is not yours. You need to work more on the goal to define it in a way that is yours. So maybe being ripped is not the goal. Being lean is the goal. Being muscular is not the goal. Feeling strong is the goal. So you need to tweak the goals and or the vision to a acceptable level that you actually see like, this, I actually see myself taking action towards this one because this is more credible to me.
Mm-hmm. So it needs to be both achievable and personalized as opposed to sort of unrealistic and inherited through some sort of catalog, a person, a social media personality, or someone like that.
Pretty much. You can also see it differently. I fundamentally don't necessarily believe that we have, let's say, quote unquote, highly personal goals. We still live in the zeitgeist. A lot of the goals that we take on are still an effect of what we see around us. For example, I was born in communist Romania. Traveling outside of the country, impossible. Period. Unless you work for the government and or for the Secret Service. Otherwise, there's no way you can travel outside of the country. As a teenager, Romania, during my university years, entered in the European Union, to freedom of travel. All of a sudden, guess what? My goal was to see a new country every single year. My father, born in the 60s, couldn't even perceive a goal like that. It was infinitely hard to achieve. So a lot of the goals that we have are context dependent and are mostly linked to the location that we are in, the country that we are in, and times that we are activating in. So there is this question like, how do I know that the goal is mine? Well, for me at least, I just assume that most goals will not be mine. They are a product of the zeitgeist. So that's why I will always go back to that question, which it doesn't really matter if it's purely my goal or my idea or whatever. As long as I see myself taking action towards it, that's what makes it mine. The decision to take action towards a particular goal is the thing that, in my mind at least, makes the goal, quote unquote, mine, my creation, my choice.
That just reminded me of this quote from Dr. Don Wood about, I think he says environmental experiences or environmental functions. Basically, he says if you can understand the environment that somebody is in at the moment, their environmental circumstances, that's what it is, then you can almost 100% understand why it is they do what they do.
I mean, 100%. Like
Probably why it is they set the goals that they set.
So
exactly.
You will see that, for example, let's say I grew up in a village. My goals are fundamentally different than those of my peers because I've been living for more than a decade in various countries and on various continents and being immersed in the personal development world. And I have seen various levels of possibility and various levels of what exactly constitutes possible goals within the culture scape that we all inhabit. Therefore, my goals will by default be vastly different than somebody who has been subjected only to a small set of dreams and or possibilities.
Yeah, I gotcha. I've heard you say before that the sort of foundation for this skill / just the foundation of life skills are skills, knowledge, and radical responsibility. Where should somebody start in those three sort of functions or categories?
Yeah, so I see these elements as foundational to you achieving your vision or achieving the things that you actually desire in life. So I'll also briefly define them. For me, radical responsibility means knowing that nobody's coming to save you. So it's upon you to learn and to act and to keep iterating on your plan. Knowledge for me means building accurate models of reality. And skills means the ability to perform something to a good enough or preferably competent level. So to the question, where do you start? You always start with the vision. You start with the vision because the vision defines the life that you want and the person you want to become. Then you adopt the mindset of radical responsibility by accepting that nobody is going to come to save you. And then you build, I think that this is more synergistic. You build knowledge and skills kind of in tandem. So you build knowledge to the level where you can act, knowing that clarity multiplies as you act. And then you develop skills so that every step compounds in the service of that vision. So, for example, skills are also, I believe that it is, they're more meaningful. You will build them easier. They have a lot more intrinsic motivation for you if you build them with the purpose of achieving the thing that you set out to achieve. And it goes back to that decision-making framework idea. It's easier because there is a plethora of skills. There's like a huge amount of possible things. So which one do you pick, right? Then for me, it's like you pick the ones that are most likely to increase the probability of you getting the thing that you said you want.
So you reverse engineer the skills and the knowledge that you need to acquire based on your vision that you've defined. And radical responsibility helps you actually gain those skills, gain the knowledge necessary in order to achieve that vision.
Nobody's going to hand you skills. So you see, for example, going back to the, I think there's also a famous Naval quote that I really love, a peaceful mind, a healthy body, and a house full of love, you cannot buy, you have to earn. You know, like all of these things are earned. So for me, the skills are the same, are fundamentally acting the same way, that no one is going to learn the skills for you. Going back to the manifestation idea that we started, to overly simplify, manifestation is getting something for nothing. So you want a result without a cause of that result. So you want, let's say, the money. The money has to appear. Okay, I have it in my bank account without the cause, which is fundamentally building value or building a valuable skill set, learning to manage your finances, learning some form of skills in, I call it in making, keeping, or investing. So you need skills in all of these three different buckets. So you fundamentally want to bypass this type of skill acquisition, which can be long, can be tedious, especially when you're starting out. You have to put a lot of energy, etc., etc. And you want a shortcut for it. Here's the thing about this that I found also very interesting. I built wealth once via real estate, and I lost it all when the war in Ukraine started, when Russia invaded Ukraine. Now, I had a conversation which was stuck with me with my father, and he was basically saying something like, oh my God, all of your hard work for 5 years, working every day, you build that and it got taken away. I'm like, if you just did it differently, if you just put the money somewhere else. Well, that one is kind of outside of my control. I couldn't foresee that a war would start in Europe after 80 years of somewhat relative peace, because there were a couple of other tiny conflicts here and there. So I couldn't know that. But what I told my father is like, yes, the wealth disappeared, but what didn't disappear is the skills that I built in order to build the wealth. And because I have the skills, I can build it all over again. Now contrast this to some form of manifestation where, let's say, it works out in your favor. Somehow the stars align and you win the lottery. Okay, and you can call it whatever you want. The alignment of energies with the universe, and the universe gave you. Okay, phenomenal, great. Well done, you. Okay. Most lottery winners lose all of the money within a 5 to 10 year period. Now, let's say if you lose the money, what happens afterwards? You fundamentally have to hope and pray for another dumb stroke of luck, so lightning to hit twice in the same spot, for you to get that money back. While if you actually took the time to build the skills, if nothing bad happens to you, you just continue to compound and it grows your wealth. But if something does happen to you bad, which this is life, we cannot all hope for smooth sailing for 80, 90 plus years. The thing is that you'll always have something to lean back on, and you can always rebuild whatever it is that you lost. It always pays to build the skills for whatever it is that you want.
I like the sort of two-sided coin of massive radical personal responsibility, because you go, well, if I mess up, it was me, and you also go, if I succeed, it was me. Nobody saved me. Nobody learned these skills for me. Nobody invested in this specific real estate for me. I did this shit. I reap all of the reward, sort of in a innate sense, as well as, you know, if it's financial, that way as well. And I assume that helps to forge your character in a profound way, right?
Yeah, well, for sure. Like it's think about it like this. It builds a form. So if you get to the point where you are the result of your decisions and actions, you also will build a form of unshakable self-esteem. So when I lost what I have built, there was no shattering of my character, because I'm the one who built it, and I can build it again. So imagine that type of confidence, so that type of peacefulness, inner peacefulness, confidence. You cannot buy it. You simply cannot buy it. You have to earn it. So by becoming the cause of the effects that you see in the world, it builds up that unshakable self-confidence.
You've said that you believe in a probabilistic universe rather than a deterministic one. What does that actually mean? Like, just distill that down for the lay people watching this, including me.
So, deterministic universe says that outcomes follow fixed steps. A leads to B, B leads to C. To an extent, all laws of physics tend to be deterministic. The laws of physics that we know. You know, if you apply gravity is the same constant all the time, etc., etc. So you know that when you apply something, the result most likely will always be the same. So this is physics is the best example of this idea. Probabilistic universe means that outcomes emerge from a combination of timing, context, network effects, and chance. So the same actions can yield different results depending on when and where you take them. So how does this play out? I believe that while we live in a deterministic universe when it comes to the laws of physics, we live in a probabilistic universe when it comes to the laws of human behavior. So we as humans live in a probabilistic universe. Here's an example. There is the famous saying that the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and to expect a different outcome. Well,
yeah,
in the laws of physics, that is insanity. In the real life trenches of human beings, you can, for example, let's say you had a deck for investors in investing in an AI project 5 years ago versus the same deck today. You can argue that you can use the exact same deck with the exact same words and you being the exact same person. The context switched. Now we are in an environment where this is seen as cutting edge, is seen as the next big thing. People are more open to it, etc., etc. So in a probabilistic universe, it's not a form of insanity to do the same thing over and over again. It depends highly on the context. So here's also how this plays out in the personal development realm. Most courses or most programs present a probabilistic outcome as a deterministic one. So the author, let's say, will present a step by step in order to achieve a particular result, which, let's say, for the sake of the argument, they themselves achieved. But often, all of these programs, what they are, is a biography of the author's success, is not a blueprint for your future one, because you cannot replicate the exact context and timings and things that had to work out in that person's favor. For example, even for me, I did very well in real estate investing in Ukraine all the way up to the war. If I had to teach somebody how to do the exact same things that I have done in order to achieve the results that I have done, I can teach you some fundamentals, but if you apply the exact same steps as me, you will still have a different result, because you cannot mimic the exact same conditions that I had in that time. I couldn't do it. Let's put it like this. It's not you. I couldn't get the exact same result. I can get a result, better or worse, because I will apply the fundamentals, but I myself cannot get the exact same result if I do the exact same things, because the context changes.
So in the context of developing a vision for your life, if context is always changing basically at all times, should your vision be iterative along with the changes in context of your life?
Yes, especially when you're starting out. So, for example, I see every plan and I see even the vision at the beginning as a working hypothesis. So it's a working hypothesis. It's basically a version of the scientific method applied to life. You come up with the best idea that you are capable of coming up in that particular moment, which I would call good enough to act. So you don't need perfect, you just need good enough to act. Then you take action. Most likely you will fail at the beginning. Presumably you will adopt a mindset of I'm either winning or learning, which is one of my favorite mental frameworks. So I take action. Most likely I will fail at the beginning. I learn a lesson. I use the lesson to retweak my plan. I apply it again. I fail again. I learn another lesson. I apply it again. And then I see some progress. I learn from this, and it's a constant reiteration. I believe it works the same for the vision. I believe it definitely works 100% for the plan. Vision, for example, is a bit more fixed, because vision will be also linked to your highest values in life. And technically, the high values in life are not something that you will change every other month or so, or every other year or so. They typically are a bit more fixed. But at the beginning, in the beginning phase, I would treat even the vision as a working hypothesis until you crystallize those high-level values that you want your life to be formed from. And then the action plan is by default a working hypothesis.
You're familiar with the 10,000 hour rule, right? It takes 10,000 hours to master something, that whole frame. I was listening to a Naval interview, and he said, I disagree with the 10,000 hour rule, and here's why. And immediately that piqued my interest, because I was like, no, I've heard so many smart people, live by this rule. And he basically said, in order to master something, it doesn't take 10,000 hours. It's somewhere between, 100 and a million. We can never know the number. But what I can say is that more accurately, it is most likely 10,000 iterations rather than 10,000 hours. Because if you spend 10,000 hours doing the same shit, it's probably not going to get you as close to your goal as 10,000 hours, or excuse me, 10,000 iterations, right? You go, well, I put my hand on the hot stove, burned my hand. Let's not do that again. Put my hand on the hot coals. Oh, burned my hand. Let's not do that again. And you keep sort of trial and erroring your way down this path. It's interesting to me that a lot of people that are starting out, they've just defined their vision in whatever it is, your health and fitness, your financial, your love life, all of these things. They think that they need a perfect plan. They think that they need a plan that goes, well, I'm here, I want to be here, this will never change. It's the sort of I forget exactly what word you use, but it's the incredibly clear pathway from point A to point B. This will never change, and this is sort of true by default. Why do you think people need this perfect plan to start, or why do you think that they need it?
So the short answer to this is that they're trying to avoid a form of discomfort. I'll get back to this. I just wanted to share a few things on the 10,000 hour rule. So I worked all of my adult life in education. I pretty much I've never stopped. From school all the way to the present, my entire life has been in education. Either teaching in class, training on stages, creating online courses, etc. The 10,000 hour rule was popularized by Malcolm Gladwell. By working in the field of skill acquisition, I can tell you that it's not right. As in, it's an obvious mistake. As in, it's not correct. Naval, in the element that you were referencing, is closer to the truth, and when it comes to iterations, for sure. But I think that even he uses, because I have listened to that podcast, he also uses it as a heuristic. Because the real answer is that you don't know, because skills are also depending, again, on abilities, context, pre-existing knowledge. So if you have existing knowledge in a particular field and you are trying to get a skill in an adjacent field, then most likely you will achieve a level of competency way faster than somebody starting from zero. So what will take you 10 hours, this other person will achieve in 100 or 200 or whatever. What Malcolm was also referring mostly again, even for him, it's a heuristic. Here's the short version of that. It takes longer than you think. That's the short version of that heuristic. Whatever it is, it takes longer than you think. That's a way easier way to say it. He was mostly referring in the books, because he was giving the examples of the Beatles, or like people who are globally accepted as have made it big. So when it comes to extreme results, then assume by default that it will take an obnoxious amount of time. To get to a level of competency, for example, of 80% competency in a particular field, is not that long. Let's say it takes a couple of hundreds of hours to reach 80%. To reach 99%, to reach 97% will take thousands. And the last few percents will take even more thousands of hours. So the closer you get to the absolute mastery, then yes, the time spent, the constant iterations, because it's not just doing the same thing over, it is constant iterations. So they increase. So when it comes to skills, I am more of a fan of the concept of skill stacking, which is the ability to become competent enough, like I said, reaching the 60, 70, 80%, which is way faster than the mastery level. There is even a book that I really liked in skill acquisition, Your First 20 Hours. There are a lot of skills that you can actually achieve a good enough competency level within 20 hours or less. So here is will be the same concept. It is far easier to achieve competency good enough, as I described, a good enough level. It is far easier to achieve good enough level in 3, 4, or 5 skills than it is to achieve mastery level in one. And I would also say that the accumulation, the stacking of these 5 skills will make you unique. way faster than the first one, because nobody will have the combination of the things that you have. So I can go on and on about skills. It's something I'm very passionate about. To the question about the perfect plan to start, why people tend to do this is that people chase the perfect plan as a way to avoid discomfort. So this is either fear of failure, wasted effort, criticism, but in reality, no plan, no matter how good, completely erases those feelings. It simply delays the start for most people. And when I say emotional discomfort, I use it as an umbrella term that I use to describe a cocktail of emotions that generally create friction and prevent action. So, like I said, the fear of failure, I will not be understood, whatever nonsense that you tell yourself in order not to, it all that it does, it delays the action. And I actually have a personal distinction that I use, which is clarity then act versus clarity as you act. So most people would want complete clarity, aka what you just called the perfect plan, and then act as a way to, like I said, remove all of these the fear of failures and all of this discomfort emotion. While a better approach is clarity as I act. So the perfect plan does not really exist, but you can get to some sort of a great plan for you while you act, and you consistently tweak and iterate on that plan. For me, clarity and action act as a synergistic duo again. Clarity leads to action, action leads to more clarity, and vice versa. Some action leads to clarity leads to more action, and so forth. So they work very well with each other. My method has always been good enough to start is good enough. So, and I also, how I view it, what you want from your plan is at least to be directionally correct. You don't need a step-by-step or everything. You just need to be pointed in the right direction. So I know that that's the thing that I want. So you need the direction and the first step. And that's it. And then you take the step and reality slaps you in the face. And then you're like, okay, not good enough. Let's tweak a little bit and then start something else. Versus what people technically do in order to get rid of that emotional discomfort, they will be stuck in a perpetual cycle of tweaking the thing before they take action, because in the tweaking of the thing, while you're on your paper or in front of your computer, there's nobody to hurt you. There's nobody to tell you that you're dumb. There's nothing bad that can happen for you, and you get stuck on that positive vibe, and you never interact with the reality.
It's the opportunity cost of analysis paralysis that bites you in the ass. Because while you're busy, trying to create the perfect plan and really figure out all of the possible conditions that would optimize the potential outcome of this situation, if you would have just jumped into this thing balls deep, you may have already completed the thing. You may have already achieved the goal, right? And it's similar to the mastery of one skill thing. The opportunity cost there, like you said, is massive. Like, in order to get into the top 80 something percent, 100 hours, maybe a few hundred. In order to get to the top 1%, it's like thousands and thousands maybe. So if you took that same time and applied it across a bunch of other skills, you may be in a better place. Like, who knows, right? It's interesting that some people will fall into the analysis paralysis trap, while if they just acted and then got clear, then they would be, if not there, closer.
100%. There is a quote, I think Nassim Taleb said it, to beat trial and error intellectually, you'll need an IQ of 1,000. An IQ of 1,000 to beat trial and error, which is to say that you cannot beat trial and error intellectually via sitting and coming up with your great plan. So, for example, I am a person who likes to create plans, thinks of methods, distills, etc. I am highly prone to this behavior because whenever I am distilling something or creating an idea or something, I am in my zone of genius. I'm in my zone of comfort. Nobody can touch me. It's the fortress of Alex. Nothing can penetrate it. I feel all powerful, all wise, all everything while I'm in front of my whiteboard and I'm devising something. So when I was in my mid-20s, that's when it kind of hit me. I said, okay, all of my methods, all of my models here on this whiteboard are basically useless. Because they sound good in theory, but I have never tried them in practice, therefore I don't know. So one of the ways why I actually pursue a lot of goals, like the goal literature will basically tell you that if you put all of your energy towards one goal and not disperse it into multiple different areas, you will learn faster, achieve faster, etc., etc. I agree with it, and I still don't do it. Because I am very curious about multiple things. So I pursue multiple things, but the main thing is that because I have a lot of theories in different areas, sorry, all I want to see is that if my theories pan on to reality, if they can be played, if they can achieve real results for myself when it plays into reality. There is this saying that I also really love. In theory, there is no difference between theory and practice, but in practice, there is. So I need to kind of see if that's if what I write on my whiteboard is pure bullshit and mental masturbation, or if it has some real value in the real world.
Yeah, I hear you. If you are running into some sort of friction or you've hit a wall, you've run into issues with achieving your goals or your vision, how do you know whether to double down on your action, you're just not doing enough, or you need to evolve your plan or your vision? How do you sort of figure out which one to change?
So fundamentally, I believe that vision and plans do evolve as you evolve. So it's not necessarily fixed. So here's a different way of saying it. The person who creates a vision or sets a vision, it's not the same person who will achieve the vision. It goes without saying, but because it's a truism to a sense, in a sense. But the thing is this: if I could obtain what I want in the spot, I will not set the vision. I can already have what I'm dreaming about having. So what I'm setting as my vision is something that is out of reach for now for me. But I've also set that vision, what we talked about earlier, I set the vision in a particular context. So I set the vision in relation with what I think that I want, in relation to my current abilities, in relation to my current ability to dream big, etc., etc. Now, the person that set the vision is not the same person who will achieve it. In order to achieve the vision, you need to become the person for whom such a vision is a reality. Ergo, you build the knowledge and the skill and taking the responsibility. Once you have achieved it, you will know more, be more. Therefore, you can see farther and you can set a different vision. So, in a way, all of the goals and the skills and the visions, they're always evolving. Now, to the question of being stuck, right? There are, how I view it is there absolutely no progress made regardless of my actions? Because that means that it's wrong. As in, there is something definitely wrong and it needs fixing.
Yeah.
But if I see that there is some form of progress, no matter how small, but it's going in the direction, I also apply that maybe, I also say that maybe it's a element of not enough reps or not enough work put in. So I will increase the work and see if it increases the speed of the achievement. So fundamentally, I will not beat a dead horse. If something doesn't work out, as in I'm taking action, I'm taking repeated action, is not one of these things that I don't see myself taking action, because then discard by default. No, it is, I'm taking action, but I don't see results. Right? Then it's this element of reiteration. In my worldview, I have never really experienced something like that. It's either a form of I see myself as not taking action and then I discard it, or I take action and then it becomes clear to me automatically that this is not something that I wanted in the first place. It's just something that sounded good enough. I cannot think of a situation in which I worked for months on end on something without visible progress towards it. No, the moment when you take action, I believe deeper levels of clarity start appearing by default that will help you make the decision whether to continue down that path or discard it completely.
Okay. That makes sense to me. What you just said reminded me of my friend Kenny Aronoff's quote that says, repetition is preparation for success. Because he's a drummer and he's all about, you got to fucking put in the work and you got to practice. Do you think that some people that are sort of on course to achieve their goals put in some work and they go, either this is a lot harder than I thought, I'm not seeing the progress that I thought I would be seeing, that kind of stuff, and then they stop prematurely? Do you think that's the reason why people tend to stop prematurely, or is it because they literally do not want the thing?
So in this situation that you explained, there can be also a different problem. The problem is that you have a wrong assessment of how long something might take to obtain. So you think that if I practice every day for 3 months, I'll be playing in a band drumming. So there is a misalignment between your expectations and reality. So the inoculation to that is some form of awareness, as in constantly being aware of the actions that you're taking and asking yourself, is there something, basically, no, let's put it like this, leave room for doubt. That would be a shorthand for this. I don't like, maybe there's something that I actually don't understand about the situation. So, there is this famous quote, I think popularized by Tony Robbins: people underestimate people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year and underestimate what they can achieve in a decade. I happen to believe that is true. So typically when you're setting out a vision, it depends. Some people are ultra optimistic. This is actually what most people do as a mistake in any type of goal that they're set. Like you go from I'm not doing sports at all to I'm gonna hit the gym 5 days a week. I'm like, no, man, you're not gonna do that, because you cannot go from 0 to 100 in a split second. It's not feasible. You have to start like warming up. So for me, that is an element of you actually don't know. So you don't have enough information about your abilities and the thing that you are trying to do in order to calibrate properly the goal. So when I created my vision to become financially free via real estate, by reading books, I actually set up a 10-year vision. As I'm like, in 10 years, I will achieve this goal. Seemed very plausible to me. First year was shit, but I learned a lot. And then the second year was better. Third year actually marked a huge spike. Fourth year was better. Fifth year, done. Achievement. So in half the time that I actually set. Around, I don't remember exactly, but around year 3, close to year 4. No, in year 4, actually I could pinpoint the month in which I would achieve financial freedom in the future. I could pinpoint the month. The same thing happened now when I did it the second time. I could pinpoint to the month. Why? Because my skill set and knowledge are very well calibrated. When you don't have that calibration, that's the point. To cut a long story short, yes, the answer is people might stop prematurely because they have a wrong understanding of their ability and or the thing that they are trying to achieve. How long does it take? But if you continue down the track, you will build the skill set and the knowledge, and your prediction making mechanism will be more tuned that you'll know how to when and how to achieve the thing.
This reminds me of what you said earlier in this interview about how action is a clarity multiplier. Like you don't really know until you do the thing, and then the more that you do the thing, the more you will know, kind of a deal. Instead of everything at the beginning of this process and you'll get there without any sort of problems or any
You
sort
cannot
of
know.
issues along the way. Yeah, exactly. It's just impossible. And if you do know all of the things, then you started too late.
Yeah.
I've heard you. I think we've talked about this before. The idea that at the end of your life you want all of these epic stories. This is like the sort of Alex Hormozy-ism thing where he wants to be the old guy with the big scraggly beard and all these scars and all these badass stories, as opposed to the dude that's just sort of lived the easy life and hasn't really run into that many hardships, and he uses that as a decision-making framework. Is this going to be an epic story or is this not? What do you think actually makes a life story epic like that? Like what sort of badass stories have you consciously been like, I'm going to do this because even if it does not work the way that I would like it to, it's going to be a badass story?
Mm-hmm. So I heard actually Hormozy saying that in an interview I think a few years ago, and I was like, man, we're so aligned on this one. Somehow I had that ever since the end of university for some reason. Here's another quote that I love from Jimmy Carr, who says, "You cannot have an easy life and a great character. You cannot have an easy life
Mm.
in a great character." So the for me, you'll notice that when you when people ask you about your life, they're fundamentally asking about what's the story of your life. When you are old, you'll look back and you'll remember like the highs and the lows of your life. But fundamentally what you're doing is that you're telling the story of your life. When somebody remembers you, they tell stories about you. We are storytelling animals. So I learned this in literature class. Like the human being is a story making and storytelling animal. So for me, it's like so a lot of things revolve around the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves. Even your understanding of yourself is still a story. You've created a mechanism of a story that you're saying, well, Justin does this, he's interested in this, his life trajectory is this. You're basically creating a narrative. So if that's the point, that it means that a great life is also one that has great stories. So I give this example of I was in university and I applied for experiences abroad. And I was with my flatmates. I was sitting on the bed and I got an email. I opened my laptop and I got an opportunity to go and teach in Bishkek in Kyrgyzstan. And I was like, Bishkek, never heard of the capital till then, by the way. And I was like, I looked at my flatmates. I'm like, yo, guys, have you ever heard of Bishkek? And they said, what is that? And I'm like, yes, I'm going there. And for me, it was literally like, I think that's a cool story. I'll go to the place that most people didn't hear about because what can go wrong? So one way
Yeah.
of picking, let's say, goals is I have it aligned with how Hormozy says it. What's the type of goal that gives me the coolest story to tell? So I've been applying that ever since that point. So that's why I went I went to Egypt after the revolution, and I was teaching there the Kyrgyzstan story, the Malaysia story, the Singapore. I went then to Ukraine and so on and so forth. I did a lot of things because I was like, man, there's going to be like cool stories coming from all of these experiences. So that's one way of seeing it. The other one is that when reality, like I say, slaps you in the face and you lose everything, or you are down in the dumps, you reached rock bottom, you can also ask yourself, you can also see that as the starting point of your rebirth story. For me, the only thing more epic than a story of success is a story of rebirth. Everybody loves something like this. So whenever I felt like really down in the dumps, I'll be like, I'm going to tell an epic story of this. I'll give you an example. When I started a relationship with my now wife, we were at the start of our relationship. We hit it off. Things are great. But we were living in a room that has a single person bed, and the entire size of the room was like arm's length. So I'm not very familiar with the system in the US, but it's like 3 square meters in square meters. So basically it's like this, like that, a little bit longer. So I have a video that I recorded at that time with her, like all of our clothing on the floor, living in one bed. And I said, I'm going to record this because this is not going to be the story of our life. This is going to be the starting point for something epic. Fast forward 6-7 years, something like this. 6 years later, I have another memory with my wife where we had breakfast in one of our properties, lunch in another one of our properties, and dinner in another one of our properties. So when you are in the dump, you can always frame it like this. This is going to be the start of an epic story that is to come. And that type of thing, I've also seen it, just as a side note, very interesting. Working in personal development for 10 years plus, I have heard so many stories by interacting with people, and you'll always hear something very fun or very, very, very fascinating. You hear a person that's doing really bad currently, and let's say you'll hear a person and they're saying that they're doing really bad, and they're like, oh, okay, what happened? Well, it all started with the fact that I had an abusive father, let's say. It's a story of some sort of trauma from the past. I had an abusive father. I never learned anything from him. It destroyed my self-confidence, and fast forward 15 years, I'm here. Okay. Then you hear a person that had achieved success, and they're like, okay, how did you do it? Well, I had an abusive father. I never learned anything from this person. This person tried to destroy my self-esteem. And I said that this is not going to define me. So it's an interesting mechanism where I've seen that some people, when they're down in the dumps, they use the story of turmoil that they have in the past as the reason for which they cannot achieve or have not grown, while the others that have the similar type of story use it as the starting point for something that they will never accept that is to happen. So to an extent, we also become like the stories that we tell ourselves. So for me, it's like I'm always very cautious of the story that I tell to myself about myself. Here's a personal example of this. When I was growing up, I never had summer vacations. As in, I never had fun. I have worked every single day with my father. So my father liked work a lot, and I would I'll stay in the village, and there was always something to work, and I would work every single day. Okay, so that is an empirical correct fact, as in I have worked every single day during the summers while growing up. Now, while that is an empirical fact, now comes the layer of storyfying. I can tell a story in which I'm a victim. This workaholic dude robbed me of my childhood. And there is something to be said about that. Or I can say that I had the privilege of spending a lot of time with my father, who has deeply ingrained in me work ethic that has served me for the rest of my life. I am very grateful that I got to spend an immense amount of time with my father growing up, and that I learned from him work ethic and the ability to build towards the things that you desire. Same starting point, empirically correct fact, but the story that you tell about the action changes everything and changes completely the trajectory of your life.
It's like the Wayne Dyer quote: when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
100%. We are.
I've never thought about that.
100%, and it does happen like that. We have this ability. Human beings have this ability of creating the story of whatever it is that happened. It's just that, unfortunately, many of us tilt towards the negative or the victimhood or that type of thing, and then it lets that thing define them. While in many cases, yes, you cannot rewrite. If something, in my case at least, there is nothing, I was not traumatized, I wasn't beaten or something. Something actually physically traumatic happening or mentally traumatic happening, let's say. But even if that thing happens to you and it sucks, you still can have the power to say, yes, it happened to me, but I will not let this be the thing that defines me. This will be the starting point for my story of rebirth.
It's it's not my fault, but it is my responsibility to change, to deal, to whatever with this certain outcome that has happened, right?
100%. 100%. This is why, for example,
the radical self-responsibility thing.
For me, radical self-responsibility is one of the most life-changing principles there is. It is one of the switch that flips everything. It puts you in charge of your own destiny, right? When you have this realization that, yeah, whatever happened to me does not define me, you take ownership of the outcome, and you become the decision maker at the center of your own existence, right? It changes... It changes the trajectory of your life completely. You can take it all to I've heard even more extreme cases of radical ownership. For example, the war is also my responsibility. As in, I should have predicted that. If I spend more time reading, I could have seen that, for example, the war didn't start in 2022. The war actually started in 2014. So that type of information was readily available. It's not like I just chose to discard it. I didn't care. So I can go to a way. The point is this: the radical responsibility, however you define it, if you go into the extremes or just the basic level, is still a life changing skill. Because the thing is like this. Let's say you are correct, and your life absolutely sucks, and you have been victimized by circumstances, by people, okay, great. What then? If you stay in that thing, nobody will come to save you. So even if the thing about this with the life treated me badly is that even if you are right, 100% empirically right about the fact. Still nothing changes. You have to do something. You have to move forward. There is a story, I think it's linked to Nathaniel Branden. And Nathaniel Branden has a book where it talks taking responsibility. And in his seminars, he used to say this type of thing that, hey, nobody's coming to save you. You have to take responsibility. And at one point, a person comes to Nathaniel and be like, hey, Nathaniel, you're always saying that there's nobody coming to save us. There's nobody coming. There's nobody coming. But there you go. You came. And he said, yes, but I came to tell you that nobody's coming. That's so for me, I always found that to be so that's a way that that story also internalized even more for me this concept. I'm like, okay, even if I'm correct and life is unfair and whatever, I'm like, okay, good. Still nothing changes. You still have to take the responsibility somehow in order to move things forward.
You should tell yourself a story that benefits you rather than telling yourself a story that does not. Just because, like you said, either way, your beliefs are important because you will always prove yourself right. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're correct, that sort of thing. Assuming it doesn't, contradict the laws of the universe. But
yeah,
if you tell yourself,
fair point, very good point.
Oh, this life has treated me terribly. Life has treated me so terribly. I can't believe that, I'll never be able to do this and I'll never have that and all that stuff. Awesome. What now?
Nothing changes.
Right? There's nobody coming. Yeah,
nobody's coming.
Exactly. As opposed to you say, well, yes, all of this stuff happened to me, but that shows how resilient I am. That shows that I can put my head down and go right through hardship, all of that kind of stuff. Therefore, if getting to that certain goal or outcome is hard, I can do that shit. I've done hard stuff in the past. Yes, that is correct. You just told yourself, right? Even though it is not 100% factually correct, you believe it, which means that you can go fucking do the thing. So why would you implant limiting beliefs? That's sort of like an overused term, but beliefs that are bottlenecks or limitations. Why would you even there's no benefit to that rather than, oh, woe is me, I'm so sad, I'm the victim type of deal.
Here's also a paradox of this. It's going to contradict what I just said with nobody's coming. So the fun thing is that if you build yourself into a self-reliant, self-determined, radical responsibility, all of this, and you build your stuff, and you don't need anybody's help, when the situation came where I lost what we have built in Ukraine, I actually received a lot of people called me and they said, dude, if you need any help, I'm here for you. And I'm like, and it's so funny to me, like, this is exactly how it works. As in, like, if you build yourself like that, people will try to help you because they will see in you the type of character like, man, this is so unfair what happened to this dude. He needs some help. And ironically, it's like, I don't need the help. I thanked everyone for what they said, but I was like, yeah, no worries. I've got this. It's all under control. So that's the irony. Is like when you're down in the dumps and everything, nobody's coming and nobody is coming. But once you build yourself into some form of great character, great valuable person, help comes, but you don't need it. So it's just how things work.
That is very interesting. That almost as soon as you don't need the help, people are like, hey, what's something that I can do to help you out? That is very interesting. If just to sort of wrap this up here, if you could go back in time and talk to Alex, in the village working, or even Alex in university, and you could give him one piece of advice, what would it be?
So typically, I believe that nothing would have changed if I managed to do this. Somehow I found the portal and I go back in time. Because as it is with most things, you've already heard a lot of good information and good ideas and good pieces of wisdom. You never acted on them. And then you hear the exact same thing like
Right.
5 years later, and you're like, damn, this is such a powerful thing. I'm like, this is the most, dude, but you've heard it before. You've heard it at least 10,000 times. So that is typically how I view this. Nevertheless, I'm going to answer in the spirit of your question. Um,
Right.
and for me, it would be I would just advise myself to follow my curiosity. It is the one compass that has never misled me. Anytime I have followed my pure curiosity towards something, it has never proven me wrong. In retrospect, in hindsight, I can state this to an even in an even bolder fashion. Follow your curiosity, your intrinsic curiosity. It'll not lead you astray.
I love that. That's actually quite profound. Well, dude, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. This has been an awesome interview, and I hope to have you back on soon.
Thank you, man. A pleasure.